Is a will you marry me in your future? Or maybe you do it all over again. Hi, I'm Brian Toon with Jewelry Design Center, inviting you to come see the largest selection of Will You Marry Me in the state of Montana. The brightest diamonds of every shape and size, unique settings built to last, and skilled jewelers on site offering free sizing and maintenance for life, because that's how long we want to be your jeweler. Jewelry Design Center in Missoula, on Brooks, across from the Montana Club.
Well, kind of weird that we have an early bye week, but I think it's a huge advantage for Montana State, especially given what they've been able to accomplish the first 3 weeks of the season. Riding with Rider back for another week. Don't have a game to preview, but certainly have a group of games to recap. So let's just start, Mikey, first of all, with this last weekend. You were on the radio call. How did it go? What was it like being back in the booth?
Oh, it was great. It was funny, Colter. The first step into the booth, I said, "Oh my gosh, I missed it. I missed this view." It's nice to have that bird's eye view into a game, and kind of like riding a bike. Got going. It was a little bit rusty to begin with, but always good to be back there. Love working with Keaton.
And the game was so, man, it was like over, but then you realize there was like 37 minutes left. I mean, they just, bam, hammered them. I texted my brother after the fifth long touchdown. I said, I wonder what the school record is for total yards in a game, because Montana State's going to get that unless they call off the Dogs. I mean, they had 204 yards rushing on their first 5 carries. They were averaging 41 yards a carry at one point. And then, you take the foot off the pedal. You don't want to, I mean, if they could have scored 70 on Maine, if they would have wanted
Oh
to.
yeah, oh yeah.
But they didn't want to. So I guess, first of all, what'd you think of the start?
I was impressed by the running, the football. It sounds like a broken record every week, Colter, right? You and I come on and we talk about this every single week, it seems. But impressive to see them do what they've done in the run game. But equally concerned for a Maine team. I mean, they're going to run the football, and what they did right out of the gate was nothing too sexy. I mean, they ran some outside zone plays, and boy, they got on the second level. That offensive line did really quick, and those holes were open, and those guys were gone. And so it could have been a whole lot worse. And then, man, you get into the second half where wisely Tommy doesn't play. I mean, he has no business playing in that game. In that second half. So I love what they did, but they fumble that opening snap, and then you get the twos in the game, and we've seen the movie over and over again where the twos get their opportunity, and you're just you come away like, I'm not really that impressed by the depth that's behind you, but yet you can't establish depth without doing exactly what they did, right?
You think, like, I had a thought that, especially when you talk about the lines, Montana State's twos it's a different deal. They play 10 defensive linemen. So when you're talking about playing the guys that aren't in that rotation, you're actually playing like your 14th through, or your 11th through 15th defensive linemen, right? Like, they're playing guys like Hunter Charbonneau.
Yep.
He's a Class C kid who's a freshman, like they were way down there.
Yep.
And same thing with the offensive line. They're already playing their backup offensive line as their first team offensive line. So then when you get to your second team, it's actually like the 3s and the 4s. And it's the same thing with tight ends. They play 4 tight ends. So by the time you get to your backup tight end, you're talking about your 5th string guy. So a little bit of a caveat. I do think, though, the one thing that was striking, though, was the quarterbacks, especially Jordan Reed. It's pretty clear he's just not ready yet. And,
Yeah.
I don't think you give up on him, because he did have a bad injury, and that probably cost him a whole year worth of development. But it was a little startling, I guess it's hard to, I'll put it like this. It's hard to blow a team out if you don't have a good backup quarterback. Because if you're going to call off the Dogs and your backup quarterback can't function, you're not going to beat a team by 40 like they probably could and should have.
Yeah. And nowadays it's just so interesting with the transfer portal, what you can get, and it's part of the equation, right? I mean, you look at a guy like that, and I'd bet both of my arms that next year there's going to be a transfer quarterback, maybe 2, that come in, because they've got to be pushed, and you have to have an answer now. College football, years ago it would be, hey, you gotta a Jordan Reed in here and you get him developed and he has a good spring ball, and he may be lacking some of the things that you ultimately wish for the guy, but you give him a year or two of development, and college football just doesn't give you that anymore. Coaches don't have a year or two. These teams don't have a year or two. Everything is expedited just tremendously. And so, the transfer portal gives you access to, like, okay, how do you flip a roster and how do you bring in a quarterback? They're going to do that next year. But I'm with you. I'm not saying the kid can't throw. I think he's got a lot of arm talent. We didn't even get to see him do that. He threw a few now screens on the outside. He flipped it out, just basically a perimeter run game is all it is. And they threw it out there, but he didn't throw any balls downfield. But we saw Chance Wilson. He threw the ball downfield a couple times, which was interesting to see. He probably fits more of what Tommy does right now, right? I mean, Tommy's not a drop back passer. We don't see any 12-yard dig routes. I haven't seen Tommy throw a post route in 4 years, right? Like, that's not part of the game. What he's going to do is he's going to get the ball in the perimeter. They're going to move the pocket, the run pass option. And so who knows? Maybe Chance is that type of guy as well. But right now they don't have to solve for that. I'm sure it's kind of in the back of their mind, and it's a smart call to get Tommy out of the game as soon as possible, and hopefully stands the test of durability here down the stretch.
When it comes to Maine's, I don't know if it's lack of preparation, but I was startled by that too, right? Like, you hit a big 80-yard touchdown because you run some razzle dazzle backside,
Right.
like Tim Cramsey play, like he used to be so good
Yeah.
at, he always wanted to hit one where, Jay Sean Gates Mouton hits up the seam and you hit him on the fly sweep or whatever. This was literally like the most basic play. They ran outside zone to the left and Humphrey made one cut. He almost tripped on the turf because he was looking around and there was nobody in the screen. I thought that was actually pretty crazy. Testament to the Bobcat run game, but like that I can't believe that Maine was what they were.
I agree. I agree, Colter. I said that in the box, that I was just like, boy, you had all week to prepare. I mean, that's a zone play. And then it happened again on the second drive. It was the same thing, right? So you didn't, not only did that happen, you didn't get it fixed. And so how much can you take away from that? I don't know. I think you know that you need to continue to develop depth, because when the guys that did come in, the twos and the threes, it wasn't what it should have been. But I think every team says that every single year when they have a game that they blow somebody out early on the season. You get the twos or the threes in. You want to keep the shutout. You don't. There's plenty to improve upon, and that's just kind of your first test. And so I don't know how much stock you can put in that game. It's good that, albeit you're healthy. I think this bye week is well timed, getting guys back, and then you kind of have an interesting game next week, Colter, with Mercyhurst. What do we know about him? I think we're going to get to see a lot of the exact same things. I mean, these twos and these threes. Can you improve from what we showed on tape against Maine? And now you're going to get more of an opportunity. I think these are, plus a bye week where you're going to get a lot of reps. I think, we should see some improvement from those backups.
I'm wondering about New Mexico's not a very good FBS team. We'll see what they become. They might be better than they were a year ago, but last year they were, based on the Sagarian rankings and the Massey rankings, they were a bottom 10 FBS team. I do think Bronco Mendenhall is a lot better coach than New Mexico's had in a long time. So
yep, I agree.
If they're competitive or they win a couple Mountain West games, okay. It's still, it's a good test for Montana State. Not the best team they're going to play on their schedule, I don't think, but certainly a good test. But then, you're completely overmatched. You completely overmatch Utah Tech. You completely overmatch Maine, and now you're going to completely overmatch Mercyhurst as well. And I just wonder, like, you were in the college coaching game. Like, how do you balance these things? Like, you have coming down the pipe some really challenging games. Like, I'm looking at October 12th when Idaho comes to Bozeman.
Oh, yeah.
These teams are comparable to Idaho at all. Idaho, I think, is dang good. They've looked great here the first 2 weeks of the year. But like you can only play who you play. you're dominating these teams, so that's good. And you're also building depth. That's good. How do you sort of balance though? Like, hey, we got to keep getting better internally. We got to keep getting better, and be ready to play Idaho and Montana and North Dakota State and all these other schools before you get there.
Yeah, I think it's part of the process that comes with good leadership, right? These bye weeks, you can't. Good teams don't waste bye weeks. Yes, it's about health. It is. It's about health. It's about getting back, both mentally and physically. But it is about going back to some of the fundamentals. It is about staying crisp, and you have to find ways to gain ground because you're either getting better or you're getting worse. There's no in between. There is no in between. So you got to find ways to get better. And maybe that getting better looks like developing more depth with your young guys, which clearly is needed. Great. Maybe it's more of the, polishing the red zone. Maybe it's more of like, hey, we've got to continue to work on some of the timing on the pass stuff. Maybe it's, better off the, blitz timing, things like that. Getting home, rushing the passer, whatever that looks like. They've got to continue to get better. But I will say, it's your leadership that's pushing this stuff along. It's your seniors, and now they've got a lot of them. And from a coaching staff, you got to be honest with them. I mean, look, we expected to dominate Maine. We expect to dominate Mercyhurst, but it is going to look different when we go into Big Sky play, and we better be ready. We better be continuing to progress because our goals are pretty high. And so we've got to make sure that we're in a good position to accomplish those. But you can't do anything than win the game in front of you that's on your schedule. So they got to win the bye week. And then next week, they got to win Mercyhurst, whatever that looks like. And then they'll be primed and ready to go on the road. Big Sky opener at Idaho State, who looks to be much improved. I know it's, small sample size, but that team's going to be ready to go. So I think it's a lot around coaches being honest with the teams that you've been playing and the caliber of teams you've been playing, along with senior leaders pushing guys to continue to get better each and every week.
Join Town Pump's Pump It Up Rewards Plus program and never pay full price for fuel again.
Save 5 cents on every gallon every day at any Town Pump across Montana.
Plus, earn and redeem points on your favorite in-store items to get free stuff with our clubs.
Stop in and pick up a rewards card. Download the Pump It Up Rewards Plus app today.
Or visit townpump.com/rewards to register and start saving.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
You obviously got to prepare for the team you're playing and like what they do. Is there a way to also practice like based on like a standard? Like, hey, let's practice like we're trying to beat South Dakota State, even if we're preparing for Mercyhurst?
Yeah, I'm sure they're doing that. I mean, that seems very vegan-esque, right? I mean, like that seems like something he would talk about, right? And getting guys in. He already believes in banging your hockey shift in your teams, and they get so many reps each and every week. That's why we've seen the success that we've seen on the offensive line around the football, because when somebody goes down, somebody jumps in. They get a lot of pressure on the passer, and they're pretty fresh on the defensive line because they practice that way. A lot of people get a lot of reps. And so it's got to be that workman-like approach. I don't know what Coach Vegan, if he talks about it that way, but my guess is it's somewhere along that train of thought. We've got to prepare for Mercyhurst like we do for, Cat Grizz or Idaho coming to town. I mean, that's going to be a monstrous game in mid-October. That's what good teams find a way to do. And they're not perfect, but good teams do find a way to just play that mental game with yourself and prepare week 1 and week 3 just like it's, Cat Grizz week or a playoff week.
One detailed question on the defensive side from Saturday. Not only did they rotate a bunch of guys, you could tell, especially like the end part of the second quarter, they were doing a bunch of different stuff coverage-wise. Like they were running a bunch of combo zone stuff, and they don't really do that. They're like a cover 4/man most of the time.
Yep.
What do you think of that? Is that just sort of experimenting to see if it works? Or you just getting reps on it to get your guys reps in games? Or, I guess if you're not going to do that most of the time, what's the sort of motivation to do it within a game?
Yeah, it's hard to tell, and I'll speculate, but I think some of that stuff is just good to get it on tape, right? You're up quite a few points. And so you have the opportunity to get something on tape. Hey, here's how we're going to treat this stack formation. And instead of in and out it, we're actually going to just, play zone over the top, right? Or, get a different look here, a different look there. And you get it on tape to see what the matchup looks like. That could be one, train of thought. The other train of thought is some of those young guys, maybe they capability wise were a little bit less. And so maybe they switched it up for, their skill set. I don't know. But interesting to see, because I noticed some of the same things. I do know depth wise, they just seem to, they need to continue to develop. And so we saw that. That was, you and I chatted pretty briefly after the game, but linebackers in particular, and then even secondary. There was a bust in coverage early on in the game where Montego Moss was wide open and he dropped a touchdown pass. There's a few other things. They got to continue to develop depth. So I'm eager to see what that looks like when they line back up against Mercyhurst here in a couple weeks.
They've been so good in a variety of ways, especially when it comes to what Montana State wants their defined identity to be. Run the damn ball, hit you in the face, get out quick, stuff you, and just keep on stacking. What, other than the health stuff, getting back healthy and getting your kicker back, getting your offensive line back going, what else do they need to hope to improve on over these next couple of weeks heading into Big Sky play?
Yeah, I think speaking, defensively first, I think you could always become a better tackling team. So I can guarantee you this week, staying sharp on your tackling is going to be huge. Finding ways to continue to take the ball away. We haven't seen a lot of that these first three games, and winning the turnover margin is huge. And so would love to see them be a little bit more opportunistic on the defensive side of the ball, and that goes with your with your ability to pressure the quarterback. I mean, you really are only as successful as your defensive line and offensive line. That's football. And so if you're able to be good against the run and then also pressure the passer, it's going to be really opportunistic. So I think tackling and the turnovers, I think they can improve on all of those things. They haven't been horrific on each, any of those categories, but we also haven't seen them really tested. So look to that to be something they can sharpen their pencil on here in the bye week and heading into conference play. And then, offensively, you mentioned the health. That's going to be huge. I think they're going to have some continued wrinkles. Coach Walker, offensive coordinator, my guess is they're going to have some new wrinkles in the run game. We haven't seen a whole lot. There's been nothing that they've done that I've been like, oh, there's kind of a new concept that I've seen for this fall. It's been more of the same. It's been some of the zones, a little bit of the quarterback run game, some run pass option. When it comes to the pass game, a little bit of that bluff style where they get somebody into the flat and Tommy dumps it, but he's also always has the opportunity to try and run it. It's been some of the, a lot of the same stuff, but I think we've said this a couple weeks, just continue to be efficient in the pass game. We're not going to see Tommy be a guy that's throwing 12-yard dig routes, that's throwing post routes. That's just not going to be it. And so even myself, I found myself probably being a little more critical, like, well, why aren't they doing more of that? Well, it just doesn't fit the skill set. And so
Right.
how do we be really efficient within what we're capable of doing, getting him out on the edge, moving the pocket, the run pass option, dominating the run game up front. It's who Montana State's going to be. And so how do we stay on track? They've got to continue to develop in the pass game and be efficient in the pass game because they need to be. The last thing I'll say is we haven't seen any deep balls, Colter. We haven't seen any jump balls. They've got some big targets on the outside. They haven't needed to do that necessarily. But I think Ty McCullough is an awesome player. Davis, sorry, I'm drawing a blank on the ECU transfer.
Ryan King,
but, big body out there. And sorry, thank you, Ryan King. Thank you. So Ryan King, very capable on the outside. Is he a guy that can go up there and win some one-on-one balls? You have to have someone on your roster that's able to do that, and we haven't seen him do it. The last thing, Taco Dowler, I'm probably biased, got a chance to coach him. I think he's an awesome player, but getting him involved,
Yes.
it just hasn't happened, Colter. And I don't know what that is. He is capable. He's smart. He's crafty. I know he's good in the return games, but they got to give him more touches on offense. But they didn't call me and ask me, but that's just my perspective.
And last thing, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. And Bo Baldwin's Eastern Washington teams were the ones that first showed this to me. But I often think a lot of times offensive coaches at the FCS level, they give too much credence and credit to the defensive guys, especially in the secondary. And this is no offense to them. But if you got guys like Taco Dowler and Ty McCullough, the guys that on the other side can't guard them. They just can't guard them, man. Like Ty McCullough is just faster running forwards than this guy is running backwards. It's just facts, especially when you're talking about playing most of the teams you're going to play.
Yep.
Idaho's going to have some corners. Montana's going to have some corners. But like when you're playing everybody else, man, they don't have guys that can run with you. And like that's what Eastern used to do. Hey, you guys want to bracket Cooper Kupp? That's fine. We're still going to throw him the ball because he's going to beat you. You know what I mean? Yep. I'm not comparing these guys to Cooper Kupp because he's one of the greatest receivers like literally ever. But I just think, man, Taco Dowler should be getting eight to 10 touches a game. Line him up in the slot. You don't need to make it complicated. You don't have to have Tommy drop back and read anything. If you put Taco Dowler in the slot and he's matched up with a nickel, he's going to beat him 9 out of 10 times. So just let it go.
I agree, and especially in the slot. Those slot matchups are so they're so important because it's hard. And I've been the other guy. I've been the nickel guy. It's really hard. It's really hard. And like, I wouldn't want to guard Taco. And so when you're the nickel or you're safety rolling down, you have a mismatch all the time. And it could be a 5 to 7 yard option route. And it's just based on leverage. And it's a simple pitch and catch. It fits into the wheelhouse of the offense. And every now and again, you rip the top off by sending him vertical in a one-on-one. And boy, that's uncomfortable for a nickel, let me tell you. And so I'm with you. I hope I see that more and more here as the year progresses. But we've got a lot of small sample size, a lot of games. I'm sure they'll get into it, but albeit I feel like as a team, they're producing at a pretty high clip, both offensive and defensively. We're not going to see much here against Mercyhurst, but hopefully see more of the depth that's established, and excited for conference play here in 2 weeks.
That's why Troy Anderson's such a freak, man. That game at Eastern Washington a couple years ago, he's the Mike linebacker, and they said, hey, you're guarding Talolu Limu-Jones out of the slot, and he shut him down, and they won. It's incredible.
Come on. I mean, that's why he's playing on Sundays. Right? Starting on Sundays, not even just playing, starting on Sundays. That's
exactly right. He's Mikey Rider once a week here on Nuanez Now, as well as the Big Sky Breakdown podcast series. Riding with Rider. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, appreciate you, Colter. Thanks for having me.
Our family on our mom's side has a deep Montana history, especially stemming from Butte and Helena. We are so proud. One of the things we are most proud of is to call ourselves Montanans. At Up Top Clothing, they have Montana-made and Montana-branded clothing for both men and women. Their Montana Till I Die collection is one of my favorite collections anywhere in the clothing world. And you can shop online and get the Montana Till I Die collection and all the other great gear that Up Top Clothing makes delivered right to your doorstep. Visit teamuptop.com. And if you use the promo code Skyline15, you're going to get a discount on all your online ordering. Teamuptop.com, Up Top Clothing, reminding you to take a step back and enjoy the moment.